right, enough Europa League. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Manchester City down Bournemouth 3-1 as Rodri makes his return off the bench. Jules, big win. And it's nice to see the Ballon d'Or back. Sorry, Vini. The Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, he had a massive standing ovation when he came on, but also when he went to warm up, because I think we all knew he was going to get a few minutes. So it was great to see him. He tucked the shirt in too. So it was old school. It was like vintage. Rodri. It was perfect. Big win. They had to win. They were under pressure because they were out of the Champions League position at that moment with that game in hands. In control pretty much of the game, even with the Evan Nilsson post. At 1-0, KDB missing a big chance, but overall doing well. That last goal they conceded, though, really, really made me mad, simply in fantasy football mindset, because I had both Vardiol and Ederson. But anyway, really good for them, and then it's all in their own hands before the last game of the season. And this was Kevin De Bruyne's final game at the Etihad, very emotional. He said goodbye after 10 seasons at the club. Everybody cried, even Pep. All the family was there, everything. Clearly one of the best players that we've seen in Premier League history.
No arguments there. What I love about his arc is obviously, I had to see him up close when he was at Chelsea, and obviously had a really, did not have a happy time there with the manager and whatever else. And then he goes to Germany and has a monster season. More than one monster season, in fact. And then he comes back, and there's still the skepticism. Can he cut it in the Premier League? Can he do it over here? Ooh, he failed at Chelsea. It's like the Mo Salah argument, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw this up in Mourinho's face like so many people do, because that was probably part of it. I mean, maybe he decided not to bet on them on their characteristics. And look, over a long career, you're not going to get every decision right, and you got those wrong. But it's more this idea that somebody comes up short at 19, 20, 21, however old he was, and then that's it. Oh, he can't do it, right? And I love that he proved so many people wrong. Not only did he come back, he danced circles around the Premier League for a decade. And I go back to my point about also his physical fitness and stuff. I think we saw at the end of this season when Pep started playing him all the time that, hey, look, maybe he's not like, a decrepit gimp either, although he's 33 years old. My understanding is choosing between two very different places, both near water. Chicago, where it's
nice,
extremely hot and humid and unpleasant in the summer, and extremely cold and unpleasant in the winter. And Naples, where, no disrespect to Chicago, the food is
perfect.
better.
Yeah.
But yeah, his wife's been down there, checked it out. It is a big move. I think there's a lot of questions. It's not just about money.
Yeah.
It's also going to be about who the manager is going to be. And what can happen. Take your time, Kevin. Take your time. It's a big decision. Probably your final contract. Do what's right for your family and just take your time. Multiple outlets report that Manchester City have withdrawn from the race for Florian Wirtz. Does this make sense to you, Jules?
So they don't want to spend 250 million euros over the next 5 years? No? Between the transfer fee, around 150 million euros, plus then his wages, around 20 million a year. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for everyone, including Manchester City, because they also want to strengthen other positions. If you put it all in the Wirtz basket, you won't have much left for the rest. So I can completely understand. As much as Pep would have loved him, I'm sure, and I would have loved to see him work with Pep. I mean, come on, it's a lot of money.
I don't think they withdrew. I think he said he would prefer to go to a different
that was not
clubs.
your question.
No.
Yeah.
Like I'm being cynical here, right?
Media-wise. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the
we're
case.
no longer interested.
Yeah.
It is a tremendous amount of money. City need to improve qualitatively. We said this before. How many City players are top 4 or 5 in the world at their position right now? And you might say Rodri, who's coming off the injury, obviously. You might say Haaland. You might say Gvardiol. There's not too many others.
No, yeah.
Right? So Wirtz gives you the qualitative jump. I can understand if I'm Wirtz too. I don't know what's going to happen with 115 charges. I don't know how much of my career I'm going to spend with Pep. Maybe elsewhere is going to be more appealing.
Yeah. Okay, Gab, your favorite game this season, the final Champions League spot will be decided on Sunday. So it's time to play the percentage game. Who do you go for?
That's right. City are on 68 points. They got Fulham away. Even if they lose, I think they're in. I'm going to go 99%. Newcastle, 90%. They have Everton at home, 66 points. I'm going 90%. I think they'll beat Everton. And even if they don't, they're in a strong position. Chelsea, I'm only on 60% because they have Forest away, who are also competing here. They're on 66 points. Villa, I've only gone 21%. Sorry, Unai, but the reality is you have a bad goal difference and you do not control your destiny. It depends on results elsewhere. And I'm going to give Forest 30%, more than
Villa.
Simply because of the way things match up. And by the way, Villa are away at Manchester United.
Who don't want to play that game.
Who do not want to play that game. But weird things do happen.
True.
And it's not a cup competition.
True.
So yeah, so that's how it shakes out for me. Pep Guardiola says he doesn't want a big squad. Jules, so much for the conventional wisdom that you need depth to compete if you're going deep in all competitions and stuff like that.
I mean, there's just a balance to find between having too many players and having to leave 5 or 6 in the stands, which is what Pep was referring to. He said, I don't want to have to tell players that they have to go and sit in the stand and not be on the bench or not be on the pitch, which I completely understand. And maybe this is a reflection, not just at Man City, but for UEFA and for FIFA to have some sort of limitation in squad numbers. I don't know. But then for Pep to say that after they signed 4 players for £180 million in January, I'm like, come on, you're not helping yourself either here.
No, he's not helping himself either because, first of all, the bigger squad, part of the reason it exists is so that you don't have to have players play every minute of every game all the time.
And prevent injuries, yeah.
And to cut down on injuries, to manage a squad. Pep very rarely uses all 5 substitutions. Most of the time, he just makes a couple. But if this is the way he wants to do it, that's fine. But, you know, it is something to think about. It's something for Manchester City, I think, to think about as well. Is this the right way forward when we want to go deep in every competition and we don't want our big guns to get injured? This was way back on Monday, but Brighton beat Liverpool 3-2. Nothing to play for, but a fun watch nonetheless.
Absolutely, Gab. You're right. I mean, we saw one of the misses of the season from Mo Salah, which even Stevie Nicol on the FC show that night could not really comprehend how that happened. But it was a great game, and well done to Fabian Hutzler.
We didn't mention this earlier, speaking of misses.
Yeah,
Kevin De Bruyne also had.
Well, yeah.
Is there some cosmic significance that 2 of the greatest players in Premier League history both have tremendous misses
and very similar ones
too?
That was fun. Well done to Hutzler, Brighton, amazing at home. Another big team that goes there and loses points or drop points. And the suspense was there. Everything was there. It was great. And I think this bodes well for Liverpool. They were in Ibiza and Dubai 2 days before.
Of course.
Like, I think Tsimikas had a Chinese the night before the game and he started that. So, but for Brighton, this is good. You know, this bodes well for next season.
The Times report that Phil Foden is asked to be left out of England's upcoming internationals. He says he needs a rest, especially mentally.
You know what, Phil? You wouldn't have been picked anyway by Thomas Tuchel for this international. He's hardly played. Why would you pick on what ground would you pick him?
There's going to be a lot of pullouts and stuff.
I don't know, but if I was Tuchel, I would not have picked Foden. I would have said to Foden, you know what? Go on holidays. Don't worry about the international break. Get ready for the Club World Cup with your club after that and have a bit of a break. So, Phil, you didn't need to say anything. Don't worry. I think Tuchel had that covered anyway.
Is that why you haven't ruled yourself out from the France squad?
Yeah, exactly the same.
Crystal Palace beat Wolverhampton Wanderers on Tuesday. Talk about a team on the beach, by the way. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Vitor Pereira, you were fantastic. You should be among, I mean, I don't give one manager of the year. I give multiple managers of the year. Vitor Pereira is getting one of them. Iraola is getting one of them. Slot's getting one of them. I might have to reluctantly give one to...
Nuno, you have to give one to Nuno.
I have to give one to Nuno. Might have to reluctantly give one to Eddie Howe as well. Frankly. Anyway, Eddie Nketiah scores twice. Jules, another chance to praise the FA Cup winners. Because I'm assuming that the party of a lifetime Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still partying now, to be fair. Rotation from Glasner, and rightly so. Some players on the bench like Eze or Mateta, and players like Nketiah starting, scoring twice. Great party at Selhurst Park for the last home game of the season with the FA Cup trophy, of course. Incredible atmosphere there. They won. It was a great game, open with loads of chances. And it was just a perfect farewell to this incredible season that forever will stay in Crystal Palace history. So well done to everybody. And if we stick with Palace, Gabby, we have a John Textor tale. Do your thing.
It's time! It's time! It's Textor time! That's right. So Lyon will qualify for European football, for the Europa League, if Stade Reims do not beat Paris Saint-Germain.
So they already qualified, but for the qualifiers now, if PSG win, they go straight into the Europa League.
Right. So that creates a situation where you've got 2 teams. The rules say you have a controlling stake in more than one team. or a significant stake, I should say. Obviously, he owns Lyon outright. He owns, I thought it was 45%. Apparently, it's 43%. He must have lost some percentage points along the way of Crystal Palace. So he's supposed to put, if he does that, he has to put one of those two teams into a blind trust, which means
what Marinakis has done, for example.
What Mr. Marinakis has done, what Ratcliffe has done. All our favorite owners do this. The problem is, if he puts Crystal Palace into a blind trust, he's trying to IPO his Eagle Football Group consortium, and he's not involved in Palace, or it's in a blind trust. It's being run by other people. That makes the IPO more difficult because it makes it less valuable.
The value is less.
If he puts Lyon into a blind trust, it's the same thing. On top of that, of course, Lyon, this whole thing could not even go away, because I don't know if Lyon could still play in the Europa League if they get relegated. I'm assuming they could.
Yeah, they could, unless UEFA, who have also threatened to not allow them to play in Europe next season.
So he needs to go. So the latest, the suggestion is that what he's going to do is he's going to argue is like, yes, I do own 43% of Crystal Palace, or 45%, whatever it is. I was going to sell it. I'm not going to sell it now. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not really in charge there, because I only have 25% of the votes, and Parrish, Harris, and Blitzer each have 25%. And if it's a tie, in the unlikely event that Harris or Blitzer decide to break up with each other and side with me, and it was 50-50, then Parrish gets the deciding vote anyway, based on the statute. So I don't really matter at all at Crystal Palace. But of course, if you come out and you say that as your argument, then why am I buying into Eagle Football when these shares in Palace are kind of worthless? So I know it sounds boring and complicated financial, but it's a real pickle. The only fun thing about this, looking ahead to the French Cup final, is I'm assuming he's going to be a Paris Saint-Germain fan for the day.
It has to be. I mean, remember Nasser, he was at the Parc des Princes for the second leg against Arsenal when Nasser invited him. So we see. And they will be in front of the DNCG on June 24th, and they will have to have their account sorted. I think they need 175 million euros to find somewhere between money coming from somewhere, the transfer that they will make of Cherki and Fofana and maybe others, Tolisso, I don't know who. But that 24th of June, this is where it could all be decided, whether they play in Ligue 1 or Ligue 2.
How much do they need to raise?
I think I was told 175 million. That seems a lot. So
all right. So you sell Ryan Cherki for 100 million. Tolisso, you're not going to get much for. Fofana, maybe another 30 million. And then because Alexandre Lacazette was earning 50 million a year, and because his contract is up on June 30th, you're set. You're a genius, JT. You did it.
You cracked it.
Your buddy Will Still is heavily linked to the Southampton job.
Yes, I think he will get it, Gab. I think it's a very interesting decision from him, choice from Southampton. He wanted a project in England. He wanted to come back here. His girlfriend, who we know well, Emma Saunders, hasn't been very well the last few weeks and months, so he wanted to come back to England to be close to her. Which is
it a case of coming back? Because he never actually lived here, has he?
A little bit. So yeah, I mean, coming.
He wanted to come here.
Yeah, it's come to England.
It's easier, better for her to care. Yeah,
exactly, absolutely, and that's why with 2 years left on his contract at Lens, he told the club that he was leaving, and I suspect to go back to the compensation for Amorim. This is a different case, but obviously he left his position. And Southampton, he likes the project. He likes the academy, the young players. I think he thinks they have enough to go straight back up to the Premier League. So I think it's a great appointment if this happened from a Southampton point of view.
Again, for those who don't know who he is, he's the very ginger-looking guy who is English, but grew up football-wise.
Half Belgium, half
France.
English. Yeah.
He's half Belgian, but football-wise, he grew up in Belgium and France.
Yeah.
And he kind of came out of nowhere at a very young age.
Yeah, he's 32 now.
Was it at Reims, right?
Yeah, so he was in Belgium before, then assistant coach at Reims, and then number one at Reims, and then Lens. Leicester City could face a points deduction in the Championship next season after an independent panel ruled against them.
This is another one of the situations, my thoughts on lawyers. This is so stupid. So they went far beyond financial stability rules, profit sustainability rules. And then they argued, oh no, you can't count this because you're the Premier League, and we were when they were promoted last time, and we were in the Championship, because it hadn't occurred to them when they drew up these rules. Hey, what if we make a unified rule since the EFL has its own? So thankfully now they have made. Now, and I say this thankfully not because I want to see Leicester City punished, but because I want to see rational rules.
Yeah.
You broke the rules. This was, some little loophole you were trying to exploit. You have a CEO, you have an owner, you have a bunch of accountant nerds who can go through and tell you, like, oh, do we want to gamble on this loophole? Is this a good idea? No, I now face the consequences.
Yeah.
And if they do get a points penalty, they're going to have to serve the penalty in the championship, which I think is very relevant because that means it's not a given that they're going to come straight back up.
Yeah.
The police will investigate after Dominic Calvert-Lewin's wife was abused online after praising her husband, of course, who's leaving Everton after a long career there, out of contract.
Yeah.
In principle, Jules, there's a lot of instances of online abuse. Is this something police should be investigating?
I think we have to be very strong on this and tough on this. And I know police have probably other things to do too. I'm not saying this is more important than other crimes or less important, but this has been going on for too long, not just for the Calvert-Lewin family, but for a lot of players involved, their families. I saw the Formula One driver, Jack Doohan, the Australian guy, whose family and wife also got massive abuse online after he was dropped from the Red Bull car and the Red Bull team. I'm like, come on, like this has to stop now. So if to stop, the police have to do something, then I'm all for it.
So there's a very simple deterrent to this, and which is when you register for these social media accounts, you have to use your real identity, right? I mean, Facebook managed to do it. And I don't think it's hurt Facebook over the years, or Meta as it is now known. And whenever I bring this up, people come up with, oh no, because in undemocratic states, Twitter can be used. And they mention the Arab Spring in Egypt, people were collecting on Twitter and had to use their real identities. The state could have cracked down on them. You know what? That's not the case in Western Europe. So I don't need you to be anonymous on Twitter. Not to mention the fact that there are, or X, sorry, Elon. I mentioned the fact that there's many other messaging paths. There's many other ways for people to organize anonymously.
Yeah, true.
Whether it's Signal, whether it's Telegram. So that's such a stupid excuse. And yeah, if X don't want to do it nationally, fine. But if you're going to register from Europe, from the UK, from whatever countries, you can pass laws and say you have to have your verified identity. And I think that would cut out a lot of abuse very, very quickly.
Todd Boehly speaks again, Gab, and he chose the Qatar Economic Forum in Doha to do it, which is entirely normal.
Yeah, normal like him.
Absolutely normal like him. He complained about fixture congestion and revealed the secret to sporting success, because obviously he had a lot of sporting success.
No, he read a book, which I'll get to in a minute. So first of all, I like it when these people talk and are held accountable. But going up on a stage, he only talks. He never gives a press conference or anything.
Yeah, he's only in those conferences and stuff.
Yeah, so
Forums.
like, oh look, let me go to Doha and go talk, in front of some show. It's pretty ridiculous, frankly. But now, is he not talking because he's on his way out of the club? Because obviously, I think they've even admitted it, that he and Bali don't see eye to eye, and he's a minority owner. But whatever. But he complains that the calendar in football is tight and the injuries continue to go up, and he says, we're gonna have to revisit what the calendar looks like and how much football they can actually play. Now, is he using the royal we, as in like FIFA and FIFA and stuff like that?
Like if he was in charge.
Very simple. Why not? Next time the proposal to have an 18-team Premier League comes up, why don't you go and vote in favor of an 18-team Premier League? Whenever it's a proposal to scrap the League Cup, why don't you vote to scrap the League Cup?
Yeah.
There are solutions to this other than this airy-fairy too much football. The other thing that was interesting is he says, we think we've got one of the best young teams. And that's fine. So far, you're back.
That's fair.
He says, we were very early with those 7, 8, 9-year contracts. Now, when you say that, this suggests to me that everybody's now doing 7, 8, 9-year contracts. They're not. It's just you. It's really just you. This is not something that's now been proven to be, and everybody's doing it like it's something you invented. No, yeah, you were the first to do it. Remains to be seen.
You're the only one still to do it.
How good an idea this is. But he said the priority, and I think this is interesting, they wanted to make sure that they could keep the team together for a long time. Then he brings up, if you read a book called Captain Class, it talks about the 15 best teams in the world, and that in order to have a really good team, you need stability within the team. Now, Captain Class is a book written by my old boss at the Wall Street Journal, Sam Walker. Sam is a wonderful guy. It's an interesting book. What he did was he looked at 15 of the most successful sports teams in history, regardless of sport, and he tried to look for commonalities. And stability was one of those commonalities.
Yeah.
For some reason, all these CEOs, companies, they all read the book, and they're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Never occurred to us that if we have the same people in charge for a long time, it might be successful. It obviously also hasn't occurred to them that if you have a team that's successful and wins one year, probably if those players are going to want to stay together and come back and win again a second year. And if they're good players, they'll win again and then they'll win again, right? People tend not to want to leave successful teams, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not like Thomas Muller left Bayern Munich after they win 10 in a row. Yeah, this is enough, right? So people might say, it's a self-fulfilling. Otherwise, if you put a bunch of bad players together, like all those long-term contracts Manchester United signed, like, you know, for Lindelof, McTominay, whatever, and that didn't work out. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Sam Walker, Captain Sauce. I don't agree with some of the conclusions in the book, and I don't agree with some of the conclusions that a lot of these CEO types draw, but Sam's turned it into a consultancy about success, about winning. Well done to him. It is a very entertaining book. And there, I've plugged my old boss's book, which, by the way, came out like 10 years ago. I guess Boehly, maybe he's got more time to catch up on his reading
maybe
now.
it's a bit late.